Hi everybody, thank you for joining me. Now it seems we are getting very close now to a proper announcement about what the Beatles have got in store for us next. It seems very likely that it's going to be something to do with the original Red and Blue albums from 1973, those two great compilations. Perhaps it's going to be completely revamped track listing. It would certainly involve using demixing technology on the early songs to give us what could be the first proper stereo versions of things like Love Me Do and She Loves You. There's great potential, we know, from what we've heard from that technology so far with what happened on the Revolver set last year and with what Peter Jackson did in the Get Back movie. There's so many possibilities there for enhancing the sounds of those recordings that were locked into two tracks in the early days. Now what I'm going to try and do in this video is look at if it was up to me, what would be my ideal compilation for these Red and Blue albums. So this is pure speculation. This isn't me sort of trying to say to you, this is what's happening. This is purely my thoughts on what a perfect track listing could be for a Red and Blue albums. You will have your own ideas because no two people will come up with the same track listing for this. Now I've tried to be realistic here. When you're dealing with the Beatles Apple company, there's a lot of internal politics there. Olivia's going to want some George songs. Ringo's going to want at least one Ringo song on there. So I've tried to make sure that that's incorporated. Also, I personally think that currently there does not exist such a thing as a perfect Beatles compilation album. Red and Blue albums, brilliant. But there's some really big songs there that are missing from there. Things like Twist and Shout, yeah, I know it's not an original Beatles song, it's a cover version, but it's one of the iconic Beatles songs. I Saw Her Standing There, that's not on there. And there's a few other things that I think would be missing from that. The Beatles One album, there's no Strawberry Fields Forever on there, for example. And again, those other two songs that I mentioned, not on there. And that's because it fulfilled a very specific purpose, to have those songs that went to number one in the UK and the US. If it didn't get to number one in those two countries, wasn't going to make it on. Past Masters, brilliant albums, but again, the track listings were designed by formula. If the song didn't appear on a Beatles album, didn't appear anywhere else when the CDs were launched in 1987, then those songs found their way onto here. Fantastic songs, but I think if you were launching the perfect compilation album, there might be some B-sides a little bit obscure on there for a mass market release. And I think this is what this is going to be. This is going to be something to try and keep the Beatles in the public eye, mass market release. There will be a focus on streaming. Some of you ain't going to like that, but again, I'm trying to be realistic here. The Beatles want to keep themselves in the public eye, and these days that means streaming. There's only people like me who buy these box sets. We're a bit of a dwindling breed. Streaming is where it's at. So I've come up with a playlist that I'm going to run through with you that I think is realistic. I think it contains all the big hitters, and also this would adapt nicely to a physical set. If, for example, there was going to be a double album release, or two double albums, there's 4 nice sides of vinyl here. So let's kick this straight off. This is my potential Red and Blue album, what I would think would be about as close to a perfect track listing as you could get. So, disc 1, here we go. This comes in at 43 minutes. So that's pretty good for vinyl. So I think the great way to start off a Beatles compilation is with 1, 2, 3, 4! I Saw Her Standing There. What better way to start it off than that? And I've included all the big hitters here. So this is going to be me pretty much talking through a list at the moment, but I think this covers some great bases. You've got your big singles. You've not got the more obscure B-sides that had to make it onto Past Masters. But look at this. I Saw Her Standing There. Love Me Do. Please Please Me. From Me to You. She Loves You. I Want to Hold Your Hand. All My Loving. Can't Buy Me Love. A Hard Day's Night. 8 Days a Week. I Feel Fine, Ticket to Ride, Yesterday, Help, We Can Work It Out, Day Tripper, Drive My Car, Norwegian Wood, This Bird Has Flown at the end. That is a 43-minute banging set of songs for disc 1 of a potential Red album to start this off. We then move on to disc 2 of the Red album, in my perfect fantasy world. 46 minutes this is, so this is good for vinyl again, but you wouldn't want to be going much beyond that, but this is great for vinyl. Nowhere Man, Michelle, In My Life, Paperback Writer and Rain, Taxman, Eleanor Rigby, Here, There and Everywhere. Tomorrow Never Knows, I think that was certainly an omission from a lot of the Beatles compilations that have gone before, and I think it's gained a status recently that means that it really should be on there, as we'll find with one or two other songs as we go on where I've included them for the same reason. Then we've got Yellow Submarine, Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, and then we finish off with a few songs from Sgt. Pepper. So Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, straight into With a Little Help from My Friends, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and A Day in the Life. What a great song to close off side 2 of our second Red Album disc. So I would say that there's some changes there from the original Red Album, but I think I've adapted this slightly to make sure that it covers things that have become popular over the decades since 1973 when this was first released. These are songs that have endured and they've enhanced the Beatles' reputation. I think that's potentially a great Red Album. We then go on to disc 3, which would be the first disc of our Blue Album. And this covers mainly from the summer of 67 through to early 69. This is a 47-minute playlist, so again, this is about on the edge of where you'd want to go for vinyl, but it will fit nicely on two sides of vinyl. We've got All You Need Is Love, I Am the Walrus, Hello Goodbye, Lady Madonna. The Inner Light I've included here, so although I've gone B-side here, I think, again, I'm trying to be realistic. I think the internal politics of the Beatles apple and Olivia wanting to get some George songs on there, coupled with the fact that the Indian influence that was obviously very big for a while in the Beatles would be otherwise sort of underrepresented, I think, here. So the Inner Light covers that, I think, perfectly. You can close off that side with Hey Jude. That just brings it in nicely halfway through this particular disc. We then flip over for Revolution, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Blackbird and Helter Skelter. Now I've included those because, again, I think that those are two songs where their popularity has really endured over the decades and they've become probably much more important songs in the Beatles canon than they maybe were back in the day when the original Red and Blue albums were put together. I think they're worthy of a place on here. And then we finish off this first disc of Blue with Get Back, Don't Let Me Down and The Ballad of John and Yoko. The second album then for the Blue album, this comes in at the moment it comes in at 38 minutes, but I think it's looking increasingly likely that the new song Now and Then will be at the end of this compilation. So what's that going to be? It's probably going to be maybe up to 4 minutes. That's going to take this playlist up to about 42 minutes. Again, perfect for vinyl. So what we've got here, kicking it off brilliantly, Come Together. Again, it's become such an iconic Beatles song. Something and Here Comes the Sun. I'd probably move the track listing around on this. You probably wouldn't get two George classics together like that, but I kind of like it actually. I'd leave it as that, I think. Then we've got Let It Be, Across the Universe. Ringo's going to want a songwriting credit on here. It's extra money. Octopus's Garden makes its way onto here. This is the one thing that I really sort of ummed and ahed about, and I decided to go with it. I've gone with the End of the Abbey Road medley on here. Again, just because of how well known that has become. I mean, obviously it was really well known back in 1969 when it came out, but I think it's endured, and I think as a kind of ending to that story, absolutely fantastic. So I've got Golden Slumbers, Carry That Weight, the end. We've then got The Long and Winding Road to finish off the end of the original Beatles career. And this is where some people will say, oh, we don't want these new songs on here. New songs? You know, they're 28 years ago now these were released. But, again, I'm trying to be realistic here. And I think the likelihood here is that these songs would be included in some sort of remixed form, potentially with John's voice able to be extracted better from those original tapes. So, Free as a Bird, Real Love, and then Now and Then to finish this Blue album. Again, I'm trying to be realistic here. Like I say, if it was up to me, I think this covers all the big hitting bases for a modern audience who want to see the popular songs that they've heard of, that they maybe know a bit, and some other fantastic big hitters that they maybe don't know yet. I think this covers all the bases. And I think that comes in at 60 songs altogether, a nice round 60. Now, like I say, this is just my speculation as to what a revamped and remixed Red and Blue album could look like. I don't see that they need to stick to the original track listing. I mean, that original track listing was put together by Alan Klein. I don't see certainly Paul McCartney, for example, having some golden memories of a track listing that Alan Klein put together. I think this is open for debate for making something new. So I think we're potentially just a few days away. Like I say, it's 3rd of August now as I sit here speaking to you, and I think it might be maybe another week before we get an announcement. There's a couple of possible release dates been bandied about. Could be September 29th, could be October 27th. It might even turn out to be something different, but they seem to be the two dates that are getting the most credence at the moment. We will see. So let me know what you think down in the comments. I would love to see your track listings, although I don't expect you to be typing out 60 songs. But what do you think of this? And I think try and be realistic, please. That's what I'm trying to do here, is be realistic rather than having some fantasy idea about what my own personal favourite songs are. I think these are the big hitters that would make it onto a perfect Beatles compilation to take the Beatles through into the future. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll be back very soon with hopefully some official news. I'll see you soon. Bye.